What's up, guys, goddesses, demons, whoever is watching this video? Now that the world has your attention, now that Black Lives Matter is gaining the momentum and the attention of the world, let's talk about the other Black lives that matter. All these comments I've been seeing on social media from white, Hispanic, either some other Black people who are either racist or complicit racist, they always talk about Black on Black crime. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how in impoverished neighborhoods, they allow crime to thrive. And by they, your city governments, your state governments, your police departments, let's talk about their lives too. Because their lives matter just like anybody who is killed by the police. And guess the same people responsible for releasing and enabling and allowing Black lives to die at the hands of the police are the same people who allow the Black lives to die at the hand of whoever. Let's talk about those lives because those lives matter too. Let's talk about how the crime in impoverished neighborhoods, whether it be by a Black person or unknown person, because a lot of these crimes are not even solved. Let's talk about how they allow crimes to prevail in Black communities and then later gentrify those communities for profit. Black lives are dying at the hand of other Black lives, at the hand of whoever, at the hand of these unknown killers who they never seem to solve, who they never seem to find. They allow that to prevail for money. They allow that to prevail so that they can later go in these communities and once these people decide, well, this is too bad for me, I'm gonna move, they go into these communities, they buy up the property and they gentrify it. You talking about, what about Black on Black crime? We mad about that too. In fact, you're talking about rioting, you're talking about looting, that should have been happened. We should have been mad as hell. We should have been mad as hell about how they've treated us in the workplace, how they've treated us in impoverished communities, how the police are blatantly treating us, how our men are going to jail for longer sentences than other races. Let's talk about it all. Let's talk about the legalization of marijuana and how many Black men are in jail for marijuana to this day. Those Black lives matter too. So since you want to talk about it, since y'all care about the other Black lives that matter so much, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Black mothers dying. Let's talk about the Black mothers who died 3 times at the rate of other mothers after giving childbirth. Let's talk about hospital treatment. Let's talk about how they assume we're all on drugs and don't give us the pain medicine and take care of us that we need to be taken care of, the way that we need to be taken care of, because they assume we're all on drugs. Let's talk about how many people have died in the hospitals, how many Black people have died from COVID-19 at a higher rate than these other people. That's not because the Black body is inferior. It's because the standard of treatment is less. I don't know about you, but I care about those Black lives too. This is not just about the police. This is about the culture in general. Let's talk about the culture in general and how Black lives are degraded, how Black lives are disregarded. It's almost normal. I mean, we hear that when COVID began very popular, we hear that hospitals, one in St. Louis only had Black people dying from COVID. We normalize it so much that it almost seems normal, but it's not. They died because the standard of care was less. The standard of treatment was less. We should be mad as hell. Let's not lose momentum. Let's not lose momentum because Chauvin and other 3 officers were arrested. No, they don't. They're just pawns. Let's talk about it all. Let's talk about how the government is responsible for those communities that crime has prevailed in. Let's talk about poverty. Okay, you want to say poverty it's your fault that you're impoverished. First of all, I'm not impoverished. Many Black people are not impoverished. But let's talk about the opportunities available. Let's talk about, when I worked for federal government, there were alliances. White people had alliances. In fact, it was racist white people who had alliances. They made sure they remained in power, and they made sure that they remained in power enough to keep the Black people from being in power. Let's talk about the playing field. The competition isn't even. It doesn't matter how smart I am. It doesn't matter what I bring to the table. What matters is that they remain in power. They try to keep the generational wealth in the black community to a minimum, but we can still prevail. Now, I'm not saying all of this because there is an excuse for us not to prevail. We will prevail. We have prevailed. People in the past, my aunt has prevailed. Many people have prevailed. But the opportunities and the obstacles have been stacked against us. And the opportunities slim. But they're still there, and we can still do it. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about racism and colorism and prejudice used to keep black lives at the bottom. Let's talk about how racists are so intimidated by black people that they had to create a system to keep us down. And we have to fight against an entire system to prevail, but we will prevail. Again, I'm not one who thinks we can't make it. We will make it. But let's talk about it. You want to talk about black on black crime and what's happening in impoverished black communities? Well, let's talk about the reason why. Let's talk about the black women. The black women who are being murdered at the hands of the police. The black women who are being murdered. The black children who are being murdered. We care about those lives too. Let's talk about media. Let's talk about how in the media, black women are degraded. Black men and women are portrayed negatively in the media. Let's talk about that. I saw a video that said, if you're white and you're not racist, something's wrong. And the reason why that was said is because the media, the system, the government, the schools, they've all treated all of us and taught all of us how and why to hate black people. Black people have been demonized in the media for ages. Let's talk about when the slaves were freed and the movies and the media portrayed black men as rapists. But the reality was, white men were raping black women. It was the white men who were raping black women, and probably white women too. It was white men who were killing, lynching, hanging black men and women and children in front of their peers. It was white women who was crying rape. It was white women who were setting up black men to be killed. It was white people who sold and wanted slavery to continue. It's white people to this day who are continuing domestic terrorism in America. To the point we needed a whole fucking worldwide movement to combat it. Let's talk about the evil, that type of evil that black people are faced against. You care so much? Let's care about and talk about it all.